bizarre and truly tragic story in Kenya keeps getting worse. The death count in an ongoing police investigation linked to a Kenyan cult that practiced starvation to meet Jesus Christ has exceeded 400 after 12 more bodies were found on Monday. This after the latest round of exhumations in the Shakahola forest, where cult leader Nthenge Mackenzie allegedly urged followers to starve themselves to death. Investigators continue to search for more graves in the forest, where the first victims, some dead, others alive but weakened and emaciated, were discovered on the 13th of April. According to government autopsies, starvation appears to have been the main cause of death, although some victims, including children, were strangled, beaten or suffocated. Mackenzie, a former taxi driver turned preacher, has been in police custody since the middle of April. Now, on the 3rd of July, a court extended his detention by a month pending investigations. State prosecutors have said he is facing terrorism and genocide-related charges. The self-proclaimed pastor and father of 7 set up the Good News International Church back in 2003. Questions have been raised about how he managed to evade law enforcement despite a history of extremism and previous legal cases. It has also drawn President William Ruto to weigh in on the sensitive subject of Kenya's homegrown religious movements and failed efforts to regulate unscrupulous churches and cults, many of which have engaged in criminality. There are more than 4,000 churches registered in the East African country of around 50 million people. Mackenzie fell foul of the law in 2017 after he was accused of urging children not to attend school, claiming the Bible did not recognize education. He was arrested again in March after 2 children starved to death in the custody of their parents, but he was subsequently freed on bail. Following the discovery of these mass graves near the Indian Ocean town of Malindi, Mackenzie, his wife and 16 others were taken into custody. The 16 men are accused of operating an armed enforcer gang tasked with ensuring that no one broke their fast or left their forest hideout alive. These men are now in jail. Mackenzie's wife, who was held for 62 days, was released earlier this month on bond. Last month, 65 of his followers were rescued and charged with attempted suicide after they refused to eat, drawing condemnation from rights groups. The Kenya National Commission on Human Rights said the move was inappropriate and would traumatize the survivors at a time when they most desperately require empathy. The Interior Minister last week accused the police of laxity in investigating the initial reports of starvation in the forest. He also laid blame on the judiciary for their handling of earlier cases involving Mackenzie, saying that prosecutors should have ensured he remained in jail. The Kenyan Interior Minister said the Shakahola massacre is the worst breach of security in the history of our country. He vowed to relentlessly push for legal reforms to tame rogue preachers. Well, quite a horrifying story that, as more and more dead bodies continue to surface, more than 400 have been exhumed so far. A cult that encouraged people to starve themselves to death to meet Jesus Christ. And they managed to do this right under the nose of the administration and law enforcement agencies.